Some of you may notice that in the last year, I didn't read a lot of manga, or at least that might be how it looked from the outside, because I wasn't talking about any. But the fact was, I was reading a lot of manga. It was just all the one manga in that I read all 1,500 chapters of Hajime no Ippo. This is one of the longest running manga in the entire world, and I caught up exactly on chapter 1,500. And if you've been a long time fan of my channel, you'll know that I have a history with this series in that I think the Hajime no Ippo anime is one of the greatest anime of all time. It is a literal S tier anime. To me, it is the sports anime. I fucking adore it so much. And it's also one of those, once I have a reasonable sense that me and someone else's tastes kind of align, Hajime no Ippo is the biggest slam dunk for the oh, you will enjoy this. It is just sports anime shonen perfection, just boiled down into this beautiful formula, whether you give a shit about boxing or not. I love it. I absolutely love it. It is the most rewatchable show. It is just phenomenal. And a huge part of that is the Madhouse adaptation of it. One of just the greatest anime adaptations I've ever seen. If you go back to the earlier episodes, it does look old and maybe a little bit rough, but in a way I think it's kind of charming. But even back then, the direction of it, the way they animate punches and convey weight and movement and impact, it's fucking brilliant. And the soundtrack is incredible. Its opening, Inner Light, is one of the greatest openings of all time, one of just the best opening themes of all time. And sometimes during the show, when Ippo's really about to win after a desperate, grueling fight, and they fucking play Inner Light, it's so good. But the reason I want to kind of talk about this is that, yeah, I consider Hajime no Ippo a masterpiece. I think it is an absolutely incredible anime, seasons 1 to 3. Seasons 1 is 74 episodes, season 2 is 24, season 3 I think is 24 as well. I could have that a little wrong. I know that sounds like a big commitment, but it's also one of those anime where it's good from basically the word go, and then it's just incredible throughout. There's a few highs and lows, but goddamn, when you watch it, you will be treated to some of the greatest fights of all time. So I think it's a masterpiece. It is just simply one of the best anime to ever exist. But I have to say, and I feel like this is definitely going to be unpopular among certain people, after catching up with the Hajime no Ippo manga, I feel a little more mixed about it. So what do I mean by that? Well, it's complicated, right? Because with the Hajime no Ippo manga, I think the anime comes up to around chapter 350/400, somewhere thereabouts. But the manga goes on for another 1,100 chapters. And within those chapters, I would say there is the absolute peak of Ippo. There is the best shit I have ever read, not just in Ippo, but in maybe anything. There's one fight in particular, and it's against an opponent called Randy Boy Jr. And I don't want to say too much about the fight. That might be the best fight I have ever read in anything. And if you know me, if you know my content, you know I fucking love fictional fights. And there's moments like that that are just absolutely incredible. I would also say there is some of the most heartbreaking moments I have ever experienced in manga. But unfortunately, I would also say there's a lot of stuff where the pacing of Ippo is absolutely glacial. This is a slow manga. This is a grueling manga. And sometimes the way Ippo works is you have the setup for an opponent and then the actual fight. Ippo is constantly broke into kind of you're either in one or the other of those two story phases. And sometimes it's Ippo's fight and sometimes it's a different characters. The problem I think occurs, and it starts not long after the anime ends, but basically you just get some opponents that aren't that interesting, or their gimmick can't really pose that believable a threat to Ippo. There's one guy and he's basically a magician. he's a magician who uses sleight of hand, and the fight's kind of whatever, but it's sort of a weak gimmick for a championship level Ippo fight. Then there's another character, he's a kind of little jungle boy, he kind of moves like a monkey, and he's kind of fun, but the fight is sort of, I don't know, the way they kind of frame Ippo's big comeback in it, it's just I didn't find it that engaging personally. And this is all just my personal feelings on Ippo. I think the problem is just that those fights can be very, very long. I think maybe without Madhouse condensing it and without Madhouse like maybe editing those fights a little, they can really stretch on in a way that can just be sometimes like difficult to get through. And, you know, that's like a mild criticism because, like I said, the highs are so high. But I think the reason I feel like Ippo is in such a just strange place is like the direction the story is taken. And I really want to talk about that now. There is going to be full spoilers here. So, like, if you want to experience Ippo yourself, well, better get started on that manga. And maybe you can watch this video in like a year. And, like, part of me, like, really respects how fucking crazy the direction of this thing is, but there's another part of me that is like just wondering like what the fuck we're doing. And like I don't feel like that's unique to me. I feel like I've seen enough people have kind of similar takes about where the story is going and what it is, right? So basically Ippo fights, I believe, and it's like last year I read this, so there could be some like slight inaccuracies here, but just bear with me. Ippo fights basically the number 2 guy in the entire world. He's like one step away from having his world title fight. And world title fights in Ippo are really, really interesting because at this point they've become like, the world stage has become like this boss level for different characters. In terms of like, you know, Ippo starts off and there's all these Japanese boxers and pretty much all of them find success in one way or another, or at least most of them do. But the real testing ground is the world stage as opposed to the Japanese scene. And so what starts to happen is that all Ippo's rivals and like his training partners, they all hit like the world level. And some of them succeed, like Takamura from the anime, and some of them do not. Some of them cannot hack the world level, and like it's brutal. And Ippo actually reaches the world level a bit later than everyone else. When he does, he's fighting like the number 2 contender. And it really feels like Ippo's being lined up to fight the world champion, Martinez. The fight itself, it's good. It definitely feels like, okay, this is Ippo's stepping stone. We're going to get a world title fight soon. And it's going, and it's going, and it's going. And next thing, like, boom, Ippo gets, like, rocked. You're like, oh, shit, man, he got really blasted there. And you go to the next chapter, and you're like, okay, like, you know, now we're going. Now, you know, I think, and they note something really scary. They're like, wow, Ippo hasn't actually been knocked down in, like, years. And then you think back through all his previous fights and you think of all these moments that he's got the shit kicked out of him, but it's like, oh wait, they're right, Ippo hasn't been knocked down in like 6 fights or something. This is fucking crazy. So Ippo gets back up and he's like, shit, what was that? And like the fight starts again. Ippo starts building momentum and it kind of does the usual thing that Ippo does, where it's like, you know, Ippo's tactic is basically the same thing every time, to the point I think it's actually like it gets a little repetitive, where he is trying to weather shots from the other opponent and basically like get in close, land some body blows to open them up for the Dempsey roll or open them up for whatever finishing sequence he's using at the time. And so that starts to happen again, and Ippo starts to build momentum, and then bam, he gets slammed with another right hook, and I think it's actually a left hook, and he goes down. And this time, he doesn't get back up. And he loses. And Ippo loses to the number 2 in his division in the world. Not the world champion. The number 2. And like the way the fight's kind of displayed, Ippo did okay, but it was kind of a dog walk. And you realize that like the same way all these Japanese boxers are getting like destroyed on the world stage, Ippo has just gotten destroyed. Our main character. And you're like, what the fuck? Because Ippo, up until this time, he's lost 1 fight. I mean, technically, like, I guess technically 2, if you want to count, like, the very first fight with Miyata. Yeah, and it's sort of heartbreaking. It's like, oh, wow, I guess we're not doing the world title run yet. You know, I guess Ippo's going to go away for another couple of 100 chapters, and he's going to come back, and he's going to do the world title fight. And, like, he really loses confidence, and he really, you know, he starts to kind of like really doubt himself. But then something else starts to happen. Ippo's hands start to shake. Like he gets these moments where like his hand, he can't control his hands, and he's like, what's happening? And there's a chapter where he's helping out his manga buddy, the guy who used to bully him, and he tries to draw a straight line and he can't. His hand is like all squiggly, and you're like, what? This is this is kind of grim. Like, this is dark. But anyway, he finds like a new training routine and he like gets over it, and he's fine. And he makes his comeback fight. And his comeback fight is like basically against a jobber. It's against this guy who doesn't even really get like a backstory or a setup. And Ippo has developed a new Dempsey role. He's developed like this brand new way of fighting, and it's fucking crazy. People are calling him like the wind god now. It's basically like an omnidirectional Dempsey role, so he can not only come from side to side, but up, down, diagonal, everything. And it's insane to watch. And like, I was watching it and I was reading this fight, and like the way Ippo is hitting this dude, it's like, oh my god, I think Ippo is about to kill his opponent. That's where I was. Like, that is how devastating a match this was for Ippo's opponent. And I can remember when these chapters came out, people were messaging me and being like, you gotta catch up with Ippo. Shit's crazy. This is fucking insane. And so I was reading it, and then I finally, I caught up on it, and I'm like, okay, here we go. Something crazy is gonna happen. And Ippo is destroying his opponents, and then he falls over. And you're like, what? That's weird. And it's like, yeah, I think he might have taken like a little hit, but like it's not like a huge one. You know what I mean? It's like, this is weird. And so he gets back up, kind of wobbly, but it's like, all right. And he goes down again. And it's like, what the fuck is happening? So then finally he gets back up again, and he goes in for, I could be butchering this fight, but this is like the general beats. He goes in again, and there's this page, and so I think it's like these 3 panels, and you see, and like if Ippo goes down again, he loses to like a fucking jobber, to a nobody, and you see him swing. You see the swing go past his opponents. You see Ippo start to go down, and then you see him disappear from the panel because he's gone. He's fallen down again, and the fight's over. And he loses. And it's like, what the fuck is happening? And there's this moment where, like, after the fight, it's like Ippo is kind of realizing something about himself, And he's kind of realizing, like, his career is over. And he can't do it anymore. And he takes this, like, big, deep bow to the audience. And it's fucking sad, And like, it's weird because in the chapters up until this point, you're getting these inserts, and the inserts are all about George Murakawa, the author of Hajime no Ippo, and him apologizing for chapters being delayed or not releasing or all this kind of stuff. And in this moment where, like, the reason for that is, like, Murakawa's old. He has been writing Ippo since, like, the 80s. He has been doing this a long, long time. Manga creation is notoriously brutal. And you kind of feel like that in this moment where Ippo's body fails him, it's like a one-to-one with the author. It's like this really sad, like, you are watching this character whose body is failing him, whose health is failing him, apologize to his audience, written by this manga author who has also spent the last, year or two apologizing to his audience because his body is failing him and he can't write the manga like he used to. And I think that in itself is like a really just very impactful and touching and profound piece of storytelling, like heartbreaking, And then from there, like, Ippo has this big conversation with his coaches and everything, and Takamura, and there's a heartbreaking bit where Takamura is like nice to him. And Takamura, who's like, the big super bully, the big mega guy from Ippo, and he's like, it's okay to quit. And it's like, it's devastating, it's really, really hard. And so from there, Ippo retires from boxing because he has brain damage. He's punch drunk. And he basically, it's like, there's been all these illusions that his coach has been setting him up for destruction. Not intentionally, but the style of boxing Ippo's coach has taught him necessitates Ippo taking a lot of, like, headshots and brain damage. And it's like, oh god, this fucking sucks. This has actually happened, and now Ippo has to retire. And so from there, the story becomes about Ippo teaching the new generation. And there's this whole story where Ippo takes in like this delinquent, and Ippo like slaps the delinquent, and then he tries to turn himself into jail for hitting a child, and it's weird and it's crazy. And like you're getting all the other like boxers like having their fights during all this, and it's cool, but like it's devastating. You also, okay, I didn't mention this earlier, there's this absolutely insane moment, and this is before the Randy Boy Jr. fight, where Miyata, I know I'm pronouncing that wrong, apologies, whatever fucking dyslexic gears are turning in my brain, I can never hold the correct pronunciation for Miyata in my head. But there's these couple of pages where it's Miyata coming to Ippo and telling him their fight, which is being scheduled, can't go ahead because Miyata has another opponent he has to fight. And that turns into, in my opinion, the best fight in all of Ippo. It's fucking insane. But yeah, you are still left in this place now where Miyata and Ippo have not had their destined fight, which has been scheduled since the beginning of the chapter. And now Miyata's off doing his thing. Ippo's retired and is like a coach now. He takes up like a coach position, and that just goes on and on and on for like hundreds of chapters. But every now and then Ippo is like wearing like these weights on his hands, and it's like there's the implication that these weights and a particular kind of training he's doing might be fixing him, might be like rehabbing him. And like sometimes someone will see Ippo like do bag work or like spar loosely, and they'll be like, man, he's as good as he ever was. What would happen if he took off the weights? And there's something kind of hype about that, right? There's something about that does get you like, oh fuck, that would be so cool. But the thing is, like, I don't know where we're going, because I feel like where the manga is right now, if you were to like extrapolate how long it takes the manga to do anything like that glacial pace and project that forward, if Ippo started like fighting again, it has to be at least another 300, 400 chapters, I'd say, before he would ever be in the space to have like a Miyata fight, or ever be in the space to have a world title match. And they could cheat it, like they could speed up the pacing of the story. I just don't know that's Murakawa's style, you know? And so as a fan, it's frustrating because you want to see the resolutions to these, at this point, legendary story arcs. Ippo and Miyata, legendary story arcs. Ippo and a world title, legendary story arc that has been in manga for 30 years, you know? Like, but at the same time, there's this frustration of like, is it ever going to happen? And especially when like, you know, we focus on a side character for like 90 chapters, and that ends up being Hajime no Ippo that year. And so I don't know, it's a difficult one. Like, I'm still going to keep reading. I still love Ippo. I still think Ippo fucking rules. But it is in this really weird space. And, like, it's not even confirmed that Ippo can make a comeback. And even, like, one of the inserts from Murakawa himself was about, like, that there was a period where he just didn't know where the story was going. And now he does. And now apparently there's, like, a plan forward. And I just don't know what that is. But yeah, I guess I just wanted to talk about it because one of my first videos where I really feel like I started to figure out my style and figure out what my kind of style of video essay was that original Hajime no Ippo video. I haven't watched it in a long time. I don't watch my own videos because fuck that. But, I mean, you could go check it out if you wanted to. I'll link it in the description. But yeah, it's just, it felt great to finally catch up with Ippo after all these years. But I was just left kind of shocked at the place it was in. And like, I'm not even saying it's bad, it's just, it's not bad. Like, Murakawa is a fucking GOAT. Like, you know, he is an incredible author and an absolute legend in the history of manga. But yeah, it's a weird one. And I guess I just wanted to put this out there and see how other people felt. Anyway, that's it.